Good evening. I will call to order the Finance Committee meeting on October 25th, 2021 at 7:15 p.m. We have one item on the agenda this evening, order number 21-100-8427, communication from Mayor Vigent with a transfer request in the amount of $146,288 from PEG funds to IT equipment to fund the purchase of an electronic time system and equipment. I will begin by reading the letter submitted by the Mayor. Honorable President Ossing and Councilors, for your approval is a transfer request in the amount of $146,288 from PEG funds to IT equipment for the purchase of an electronic time system and equipment. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Finance Director Patrick Jones and IT Director Mark Gibbs for their coordinating efforts in integrating this new paperless time tracking and employee scheduling system. It is long overdue and is much needed update to our archaic system. Please don't hesitate to contact me or Mark Gibbs with any further questions. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. And I will begin by asking Director Gibbs to come on up, please.
I guess he is.
Twice in one evening there, Mr. Gibbs.
Yeah.
Good evening, Director.
I tried to get him to come up, but... Good afternoon.
If you can kind of give an overview on that.
Sure. So, I don't know if anybody here knows how the time system goes for the city of Marlborough. So basically, the Treasurer's Department prints out a piece of paper that gets sent to all the department heads. The department head then hand fills out their time sheets for each department, each employee. It gets signed, and then it gets put back into the treasurer's mailbox, and then the payroll goes through sheet by sheet and adding that into Munis. And not only that, is they have to calculate all the different times, like the overtimes and comp times and all that stuff that gets in there as well. But going to, and I put down 8 physical time clocks, and people were a little bit confused at why it costed so much money for 8 time clocks. Well, it isn't, the cost isn't for 8 time clocks. The 8 time clocks are physical clocks that are actually going to be going into the DPW where they can badge in and badge out for weekends or nights and so on and so forth. The total project is $146,000, including the 8 time clocks and including the configuration of all the time management system. It's going to be web-based. It'll be online, so people will be able to go online and check their time, check in, check out. After an employee puts their time in, then the department head then will approve the time, and it gets synced directly into Munis. From what I've seen and from what the department heads saw, it looks like a pretty good system. The nice thing is that it ties directly into Munis, the payroll system that we use today, and it'll work very well. There's also a lot of benefits from this. You're not going to have all the mistakes, the handwritten mistakes of time and hours and so on and so forth. It'll all be electronic, so it'll get rid of that error of human error. That's it. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Director. Before I open up, I do have just a couple quick questions. Thank you. So, as an example, say someone in the clerk's office, would they have like an app now on their computer system that ties in with Munis for when they're doing their time and scheduling?
So I'm not sure if it's an app, but they'll be able to log onto their PC to a web page and then fill out their time, and then the department head would approve the time of all the employees, and actually the department head could also put the time in. So yes.
I was going to figure you were going to knock it out of the park.
Thank you, Director Jones. Thank you.
They'll leave them.
So that in case people in the city are listening, this is meant to be brought out in a very slow process. So there is an app, but we're going to move from crawling to walking because obviously automation is going to really hit everybody. So the intent is to get, over the next few months, the smaller departments which have 1 or 2 pay codes onto these electronic timesheets, which are then going to be just your regular hours, a holiday. It moves up 1 level, the supervisor approves it, and it spills right into payroll. After we go a few months with that, we have a police and fire and DPW that have an array of different codes.
Yeah.
And so the trick is to get the smaller departments sound, get them up and running. Then we have a whole group of people that we know we have to get email addresses for, and we have to get them into the system. I think the biggest plus that I'm hoping we'll get in the first year, and like Mark mentioned earlier, is we have a group of people that because of either their handwriting or the way things shuffle through because someone's running out the door for vacation, it's inevitable that a mistake can be made. So what happened before was we were on a weekly payroll. So people could easily fix that mistake in the very next pay cycle because Mass General Law states that you have to make an employee whole within a very short period of time. So one of the driving forces to moving to an automated payroll system is because the employee will be the actual person to enter their hours. They're going to take responsibility for that. So what happens is when they send this time card off to their supervisor, it's going to lock down what they chose. So if the mistake happens, they have the opportunity to go in later and see what their supervisor approved. So what we're hoping is that they'll speak up and say, I had 2.5 hours of overtime, why isn't it there now? And then we'll have that window of opportunity to fix it before the payroll actually gets released. That's like the ultimate goal. Because if not, you've got now this biweekly cycle that's sort of working against Mass General Law, which states you have to make the employee whole. So we don't want to constantly be doing a payroll every time we find a mistake now that we've moved biweekly. So there's a big driving force in this, and it's more baby steps because the fire department and the police department are going to be a huge undertaking. Absolutely. And so we want to get them into queue for after the new year in February when we unload this and get all the other smaller departments in, and they're sort of skating pretty smooth.
No, that makes sense. Thank you. And I know it's still one other question. I know it's still early on, but budgeting for the yearly cost, have you made a decision if that's going to come from IT department, spread out through all departments?
From what I understand, it's going to come out of IT. It's a software related, just like all
it's
the
a software related maintenance cost.
For the yearly thing. Okay, thank you. I'll open it to the rest of the committee. Thank you, Director. Councilor Orm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question on the cost itself, at $22,552, is that a 3-year contract we're going into, a 1-year contract?
So that's in addition to the munis costs that we have now. So it'll be $22,000 per year as the maintenance and support of the software and the hardware.
How long have we been guaranteed that amount?
Munis contracts usually tend to run 3 years. Okay. So we get a guarantee rate for 3 years.
And another question related to cost would be the savings, actually, not the cost, in respect to the personnel hours that are being utilized in payroll, for payroll presently being done by hand. Has anyone figured what that savings will be?
That would be...
So the opportunity cost itself, I think, is humongous. I can't even tell you how much time it takes. So the standard... Anytime one check has to be reproduced, it's 45 minutes of my payroll's time just to go through the gyrations of what they'd have to do to get the check done. So now you multiply that by the employee who's had to go to their supervisor to say that their paycheck is wrong. Then you've got to stop the supervisor, and they've got to go fix the problem, and then it's got to make its way back into payroll. And then a second person in another department might have to do that. So in and itself, just the whole idea of, not having to go find an old timesheet, check to see what was done. Then you got to track down and say, well, if it was written this way, who changed it? Why did it get fixed? And, and just an employee knowing that there's some confidence in submitting a timesheet and knowing that it's going to get processed the way that it should.
So there's definitely some cost effective.
There's so many areas that to do an opportunity cost or a cost saving analysis, I don't really have. All I know is from probably last October. Actually, it was a year ago that I sat here and I started. In that year, I would say almost on a regular basis, my payroll department's been getting phone calls that people's checks had errors. And it's, there's at any point in time, there could be 1,600 people on the payroll itself. So to think that Ralph, up until the time before we hired Kathy as the principal clerk, was doing payroll all on his own, biweekly, the school 1 week, the city the other week, and pushing out 1,600 checks a week, it's difficult not to have a challenge, during those time periods.
So the technology is definitely welcomed by me. I will definitely be in favor.
So there's another feature, too, that's going to be improved. Is in the February-March time frame, we're going to be moving to another Munis upgrade, which we like to do every 2 years. And that new Munis upgrade is a big benefit to the payroll system. So a lot of the retro pay and stuff for people that they have is all done by hand right now. So you can imagine the mistakes that can be made by doing that by hand. Well, the new Munis upgrade in March, that's all going to be automated.
So it sounds like you've gone from the Flintstones to the Jetsons here.
Well, getting better, getting better. So.
No, it's great. I support it. The other note must be that when it comes time to do the 1099s or the tax forms, it must have a program built in for that as well. It does, so that's got to be a cost savings as well.
I mean, it's definitely an expensive project here going for $146,000. No question about it. I've looked at other time solutions out there. There's a lot of them out there. There's some cheaper ones than this. But to get it tied in and to get it working seamlessly with the software that we had, it was hard not to go with this situation, with this solution. So.
Understandable, especially if you're working with Munis.
Right.
You might as well have something that sinks into Munis. The only other question I have is, you got me confused on the 8 physical time clocks.
Yes.
Where are those going? Are they all going to DPW?
Yes. Yes.
You need 8 time clocks at DPW?
There are
That's my
two,
question.
It's what they have right now, actually.
Oh, wow.
They do have time clocks there. So their time system is going away, and it's going to go merged into this one.
I just thought there was a lot of time clocks, but again,
There's the parks, there's the
okay,
main
because
office,
it's
there's the
not
east, there's the west, there's
true. Oh, that answers it. Thank you. That's because they're in separate buildings. I thank you for that.
It'd be nice if they could all go into one building.
No, I don't think that will work too well, Mark. But I thank both of you for this incentive to move along into the 21st century, and I look forward to seeing this program working for all the departments. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you, Councilman. Now I'll open it up to the rest of the council. I'll call on Councilor Giuseppe first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So is the brand of this Munis? The Munis is the family product, right? Is this part of that company, or is
It's called Executime,
Okay.
and it was purchased by Munis quite a few years back.
So it's a subsidiary of those
Yeah,
guys?
it's typical. A lot of these big companies buy,
Right.
softwares and tie them into their systems. So yes.
So what is going to be the punch-in process? Is they going to be using the city ID to clock themselves in and out? Or?
So the time clocks, yes, will be used. The city ID will be able to use the punch in and punch out. The others will be done through put their time in through the website. They log in and put their time in.
Okay, so they still need to reach out to punch in over the web.
Yes.
Okay, so my concern is, and just how do you expect to handle missed punches? Because they happen, right?
Oh, so right now people put their time in on pieces of paper and mail at the end of the week, and then they put their time in. Their department head approves them, and then it gets sent off. Now it's going to be they'll have to go in once a week and put their time in.
Once a week or once a day?
It depends on the department.
Okay, so a scenario basically, Mark, you log in, you missed the punch when you left last night, right? Because your brain farted, How does that get corrected?
So I don't punch in or punch out. So what happens is like
Hey,
so.
someone that works for you. Okay.
So my staff. So what happens is we have a calendar on SharePoint that my staff calls like personal day, vacation time, so on and so forth. As they put that time in at the end of the week, I go in, I get the piece of paper for my time slate, I go into the calendar, see who was out, put all their time in, and submit it upstairs. They don't actually put their time in, I put their time in for them.
That's in the current scenario.
That's in the current scenario, and that will be the scenario moving forward, that they would, if they need time off, they would put it into the time system.
Right. Oh, no, I'm just wondering how to handle a missed punch.
So the system also will have prompts on it. So if you're a person who's like 8 to 5, and again, we're going baby steps, but what we're envisioning happening within a short period of time is if you're a scheduled, say, first shift, 8 to 5 person, if 9:30 comes, your supervisor may get pinged that you haven't punched in yet. The other thing that will happen is if you told me today that you wanted to take next April 3rd off, it would register through the payroll system. And on that day, it's going to automatically know that you're out and account for your time away against your out bank without you having to go in to take the time off. You know how we ask for a day off, but then at the end of the 2-week pay cycle, we have to go back in our time card and say that we took 7 or 8 hours worth of time off as vacation for that day.
Right.
The mere action of asking for that day and then having the supervisor approving it actually locks it in, so you can get up in the morning and go on with your day and not worry about whether you've informed your supervisor that you were off for the day.
So your vacation day is an actual vacation day.
Yes.
Yeah. So if I was going to be punching a time clock in for the city, and I missed a punch at night, the next morning, do I get notification that I missed a punch?
There should be. That's like level 2 and 3, but in the prototype when we were watching it, you can set up, so different places have different municipalities have different needs, so they do have these work rules that you can set up in these softwares, and one of the work rules will be that if somebody has 3 and they're supposed to have 4, that it notifies their supervisor via email within a very short period of time that that individual has not completed their punch process or their in and out process.
And that could be corrected as part of the process before the final payment.
By the supervisor.
By the supervisor. Okay.
The one challenge that we're going to face early on is that once an employee actually initiates an action and it gets finalized, because once the supervisor opens it to look at it, it sort of locks them in. So if the supervisor makes a mistake, it will need to be unlocked to be corrected. But, we'll look for the user rights and stuff to, work that out.
Escalating up in procedure and rights and all that stuff. Okay. Okay, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I'm just going to go to Council Landers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess, Mark, you're right with it. I think this is important. The timing couldn't be better. This gives confidence to the city, to the employees, to the residents of Marlborough, and I think it's long overdue. I know exactly what you were talking about earlier tonight. That's how I ran it when I was down City Hall in the 90s. And I know your payroll process, because the school department had the same one for years. We used to do our own and then it merged. But I think this is a big confidence builder for everybody. And I think it's long overdue, and I give you a lot of credit, both of you, for jointly working on this and bringing this forth. So good luck.
Thank you.
And I support this all the way. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councilman. Council Perlman.
Thank you, and I also agree it's such a worthwhile investment in knowing that this is going to last for a very long time. I'm curious specifically if there's a lot of training required or if it's pretty intuitive given that it integrates with the Munis system. So for employees who are getting exposed to it for the first time, is it pretty intuitive to access the way that you would use the time card system?
It is pretty intuitive, and the reason why we're starting off small, so I'm just going to use 3 or 4 departments. So what we plan on doing is the city solicitors, the treasurer, the auditor's office, just as an example, places where there's a few employees. And we're actually, there is a sandbox they refer to as a training module, but we really didn't get access to that the way we wanted to. We had to actually go live. But I have a lot of confidence that using other automated systems that we can develop several cheat sheets, for the lack of a better word, or a series of instructions for both the staff inputting and the managers that are approving, so that we can seamlessly bring these people on within a very short period of time. I think where the biggest challenge is going to be is in the larger, more complex departments. I don't know, but I believe the police and fire have probably over 25 or 30 pay codes at least, and the DPW has several pay codes depending on whether it's snow and ice or whether it's someone over in cemetery or in various spots. So those are where the more challenging areas are going to be. But what the goal is to have enough documentation in place in an organized fashion so that before these departments actually start using it, they're training on it. And as an example, I spoke with Sean Dival, and both him and his staff, his managers, agreed that we hope that this can really give some complex data, so that therefore they might be able to set up some additional codes or groups. So let's just say we'll go a year from now, they set up a special code for snow and ice. The goal is that, they might have had 15 pay codes, but now they're going to do a subcode of one of those codes. So 4 months from then, they can actually print out a report that tells them exactly how many man-hours they needed to utilize to deal with that snow and ice removal for that winter. So the goal, to your original question, is that I think in its simplest form, it's going to be very quick for people to adapt to. And then that goes with the phone apps. So for an example, you have people that are going to be at various stages of learning this. And my goal is that you're going to have say 2 people in the police department are going to be pulling up in the car, and you're going to have the driver getting out and heading towards the building, and the passenger getting out and going to his car. And they're going to look at each other and go, well, aren't you going to go in and punch out? And the driver's going to say, or the passenger's going to say, oh, I did it on my phone while we were pulling in. So the other person's going to go, oh, great, I got to trudge through the snow. I got to learn how to do that. So I think over time, the expectation is that it's going to become extremely seamless and easy, but it might be a large expectation right at the beginning.
No, I appreciate the very thorough explanation, and certainly having those guidance sheets up front could be useful for those less familiar. I know I've used virtual time, clocking systems, and sometimes, it just takes a little bit of upkeep in the beginning, and then people are able to use it, and having, the eventual phone apps as well is a great asset. So very much in support of this, and glad to see it moving in this direction.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further? Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that the tune of the yearly cost of 22 is rather high, but having your explanation, I get it, because we already use Munis. So I have worked with software where you try to piecemeal it together, and it's a lot more costly to do that, especially with someone's time. I still don't like the cost, but I get it. It's justified in that regards. And I also think that technology is only good as the person that's using it. So to your point, I think that there's going to be a lot of education and a lot of mishaps in the beginning. But once I think you get it, I think it will be seamless. But I don't envy you with the rollout of this project. Having to deal with software switches over, even at the salon level, was a nightmare. I can only imagine the employees here. So just that the yearly cost is concerning. But like I said, I get it. It's just rather high.
The biggest thing is going to be the supervisors making sure that they are on top of it and know how to do this so that they can pass that on to their employees and help them through it.
Well, and I like the fact that I don't think any employee would like that, but you're putting the back onto the employee to make sure that they're doing their due diligence, which is always a good thing, because now they're a little bit more in control of their pay. So now you can see that there are no errors, because once you submit that timesheet, it's off, and you never get to verify it at the end. So I like that I'm assuming you can just log in at any time to view to see how things are accurate, which I like that fact, because now in the technology world, living with the cloud base, I know my clients for the whole week because I can pull it up on my computer. So I like that fact. Again, it's just with that comes a cost, and I'm assuming that's the $22,000 a year. Because of that convenience, there's a cost to that.
It's operating in real time.
Which I get, which means real dollars, which is the $22,000. bunch. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much. Just based on some ideas that I tossed about. So there's going to be a phone app that's actually going to run to people then clock in their time on the phone?
There is a phone app available. It's like, I don't want to say level 1, level 2, level 3, but there is an app that is aligned with this.
And someday you may use it.
And they just log in on their phone. And what it is I'm still learning ExecuTime, I think does a real-time, I don't know if it's every hour or whatever, interface, but they'll go on their phone app and they'll enter it onto there. They can pull up their time cards rather than going to a computer monitor and typing into it. They're going to make their connection through their phone app.
Okay. I assume the GPS of the phone's tied into this as well. Is that the case? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any, Councilor Orm?
I'm satisfied with the demonstration, the information on the program, but I'm back to the PEG funds. And maybe Patrick, as we start to see more and more streaming, we see less and less PEG funds from Verizon and Comcast. Do we have an analysis of how much it's dropped over the past couple of years with the opportunity now to drop your cable provider and stream?
We don't. It's the first it's come up in a discussion, but I'd be happy to
Yeah, I'd be curious. I'm trying to add it all up, and I said maybe you can just do a run sheet on that just to see the differences from, say, 2017 to now.
Forward.
Yeah,
Sure.
see where we're at, because it's limited funds that show up here. Available future transfers is $376,000. It is nice, though, that we have this opportunity as a group to be utilizing these funds, but I was just curious if we've been keeping track of the differences on the PEG funds.
That's a good point, because there are a lot of people going streaming and moving their cable.
President Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To answer Councilor Orm's question, so back in the 2017 timeframe, we're getting about $200,000 a quarter. We're down to about $170,000 a quarter now, of which about $400,000 to $500,000 a year is required to run the cable station. So what the mayor and IT have been doing is taking the excess funds above and beyond, which works now, but we're going to need capital upgrades. So we've got to be mindful of these transfers that go forth. But the real issue is, as cable subscribers don't subscribe to cable, either go to Hulu or whatever, I'm sure it's just a matter of time before Congress finds a way to figure out how to tax that so that the government gets a piece of that pie. But right now, your point is valid. It's dropping every quarter because fewer and fewer people are using cable.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any further, Councilor Navin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Follow up on Councilor Ossing's point about the government finding a way. I do believe there is a bill on Beacon Hill right now that is looking to try and find a way to hold Hulu and other providers to the same responsibilities that they are holding to cable providers, which I think probably our friends at WMCT-TV would probably be grateful for. So I guess more to come on that. The question I had is, just to follow up on Councilor Dumas's point about just the yearly cost obviously being, extensive, and when you go ahead and sink $146,000 into a new system, you're not going to then turn around anytime soon. You're really locking yourself in, for a considerable period of time with these folks. The $22,000, does that come with kind of back-end support as well? And are there other kind of things that are built into that as part of the yearly cost? And then is there kind of an acceleration going forward, what you can expect? Obviously, these prices will go up just as anything else does.
So the $22,000 is the maintenance and support of the software, as well as any the training is not part of that. The 146 includes the training.
Okay.
But it does maintenance support and the hardware support of the time clocks.
Okay, so it's like unlimited support. I know at work a couple of times we've had some technology things that we've installed, and they're like, okay, well, you get 4 months of unlimited back-end support, and then all of a sudden it's you start to pay for a support contract. So that's all included.
That's all for support and everything. Yeah.
Great.
But then again, Munis every 3 years they raise up, so this is part of Munis.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor
Mr.
Navin.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion is made. I will second that. Any further discussion? All in favor? It carries 5-0. Director Jones, do you need a suspension for this? For the next? Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion's been made, seconded to adjourn. All in favor? It carries. Finance is adjourned at 7:45 p.m. Thank you.